No Nut November. Now this is a cause I can really get behind. Not like other campaigns, like this Team Tree nonsense or Greta Thunberg. This is important. Nuts are a real problem as they kill thousands of people every year and no one seems to care about it. It could be because they've fallen from a tree onto your head, or they're causing your airways to swell up after they spooked your body. And this isn't like some sexy choking either. This is like you die a painful, wheezy death covered in hives after you touch the same doorknob as a stinky 6-year-old that ate a peanut butter and jam sandwich 2 hours earlier. There's absolutely nothing kinky about that. And apparently Australia is the epicenter of nut-related deaths, with the most nutty deaths per capita in the world, and only 2 of those were during the construction of the Big Peanut in Queensland. And it gets worse. Do you know where nuts come from? Trees. And now, because of Team Trees, we've essentially planted 20 million more murderers into the ground. So this month, I'm going to do my part in raising awareness about the dangers of nuts, and will be supporting No Nut November and the World Allergy Organization by building a device which will stop my family from eating nuts.
It doesn't even have nuts.
How you going? In that brief 3-second intro title, I found out what No Nut November actually is, and have also been advised by my lawyer to not make fun of Team Trees and the man that throws money at people for fun. So it turns out not nutting isn't a new thing. A couple of 100 years ago, they had a similar event called No Nut Ever, otherwise you'll go to hell, also wear this spiky cock ring. Back in the 1800s, all the crazy religious peeps in the Western world decided they were going to get together and stop everybody from touching themselves. They would refer to tugging the slug or flicking the bean as self-abuse, and believed it caused all sorts of horrible problems, including mood swings, bad posture, fondness for spicy food, stiff socks, and even insanity. And it wasn't only the Christians. The fascists were also a fan of not touching the snake, as suppression of natural sexuality and sexual curiosity in children was key in raising nice, obedient, shy, uncritical, perfect little Nazi children that would do exactly as they were told. And they came up with some pretty creative ways of preventing men from wrestling the eel. So I did a lot of work torturing myself by reading a horrible BuzzFeed article which summarized these bizarre things, and I have come up with my top 3 anti-hand party devices. Number 1. Good old cornflakes. Apparently cornflakes were not originally created as the perfect cereal for mums that don't care about the happiness of their children, but were actually created by John Harvey Kellogg intentionally bland, as he thought the dullness of the cereal would stop people from spanking the monkey. Mr. Kellogg became one of the leading voices of the Don't Let Your Body Touch Yourself movement, and was actually so committed to the cause that when it was time to do the hanky-panky with his wife, he actually preferred to head down to the local orphanage and adopt 8 children instead. At the time, this anti-sex movement was so sexy that his dull cornflakes became a massive hit. So John teamed up with his brother Will and started the Kellogg's Company. Although pretty quickly a feud broke out. Will argued more sugar needed to be added to the cereal to make it popular, but his brother disagreed as he thought it would make the cereal too seductive. The rift became stronger and the 2 brothers split apart, creating 2 different cereals, cornflakes and Crunchy Nut. The non-wankers stuck with the cornflakes, while the wankers quickly moved over to the sweet and sinful Crunchy Nut, and the brothers never spoke again. Number 2. Wiener cooling device. Now this is my second favourite, not because it stops people from shining their Oscars in a fashionable way, but because it actually just sounds like a great way to keep cool. Every man in Australia needs one of these. Actually, every person, animal, and plant in Australia needs one of these. Number 3, the bell ringer. This one is absolutely hilarious. Users would insert their member into the tube, and if swelling occurred, it would cause the trigger to release, meaning the bell would ring, warning the wearer and anyone within hearing distance that a man with wood was present. And if 2 men's bells went off at the same time, everyone knew they better place their bets and pull up a chair, as things were going to get chaotic. And I was curious if the recent resurgence of No Nut November was caused again by Christians or fascists, so I did some research and found it most likely started after the publication of this article, which showed that in a small group of men that for some reason agreed to jerk off into a tube, that their testosterone levels would increase after 7 days of not nutting. So obviously the 4chan boys and gym boys interpreted this as the secret to becoming a manly man, and thought this extra testosterone would allow them to overcome all their insecurities in life, allowing them to pick up chicks and finally become the man that all men strive to be, the CEO of a cereal company. Now if you just excuse me, I'm just going to have a light snack before we get into the building process. Now, I've got a couple of options here. At first, I was thinking I could install some kind of web filter on my home router that would track all the websites and then trigger an alarm system if anyone did anything naughty. But it's much easier to just break the router, and I don't really care or want to know what my family gets up to. So instead I thought I would take the anti-fapping designs from the past and make a more hardcore version for all the gym boys wanting to raise their testosterone. So this is my very detailed plan. I'll have a tube here, and when the wang gets bigger, it presses up against this lever, which then pulls this wire, which releases a trigger, closing an elastic-powered pair of scissors. Now I wanted to use a cool pair of scissors that look menacing. So I bought these cigar cutters, which have an absolutely beautiful blade design. But unfortunately, cigars are smaller than the gherkin of most men, so I can't use them. And then I ordered this banana cutter, or as the Germans would say, a banana schneider. But it's not actually very sharp. And unlike most seen on TV products, it kinda works pretty well, so I'm gonna keep it. So instead, I got inspiration for my blade design from Peter Srippal, who has an extensive history of building anti-nutting devices. And I feel like I should put a warning here. Do not attempt to make this device and use it. Unless you're a rabbi. Alrighty, so I've made these 3 little blades which look a little bit like raptor claws, which are hopefully going to rotate in and cut whatever's in their path. So now I just need to make the moving parts and head down to the store to buy a pipe for the eel to enter.
Hey there. So I'm looking for a pipe for my cock. Do you know if any of these are suitable for a cock?
I think maybe if you use this one.
That's probably a bit too big for the cock. Oh, maybe this one's more the right size.
Yeah, this
You think this will be alright?
one. Yeah, I think that.
Okay. That's probably good. Thank you for that.
So once I got my pipe, I headed somewhere private to take a measurement so I could cut the pipe to the correct size. Then I kind of just threw it all together. And this is how it works. These 2 parts move independently from each other, and when the handles close, they make the jaws close. When the salmon swims upstream, it pushes this lever, which pulls this switch and releases the elastic and blades. And I don't know if it's a good thing, but this is probably one of the most complicated things I've ever built on this channel, and I'm proud. So let's give it a test. And our substitute for a crumb will be a carrot, a banana, and a frankfurt, or as the Germans would say, a frankfurt. And this thing is a little bit terrifying. And after my last video, I have lost all faith in the strength of carrots. And as expected, it did not put up much of a fight and cut the tip clean off. So now the slightly curved banana. And it was probably a little too thick for the tube and didn't really manage to cleanly cut through it, unlike the amazing banana schneider. And now for the meat stick you've all been waiting for. And again, in slow motion. Yeah, Mr. Kellogg would definitely endorse this device, because after this, your only option would be adopting 8 children. Now the only thing left to do is place it in a box, take it in the yard, cover it in petrol, and set it on fire so no one ever has to touch this horrible device ever again. Sorry, Mr. Kellogg, I think I'm just going to stick with my crunchy nut. Cornflakes just aren't for me. Thank you so much for watching. If you like that, make sure to subscribe and check out some of my other stuff.